Welcome back to Hobby Jogger Elite, and welcome to a video I've been wanting to make about two shoes, probably the two shoes I've been running in the most over the past couple months, especially so in recent times through the context of my marathon training. That is, of course, the Asics NOVABLAST 3, the Asics SUPERBLAST. These are two shoes from the same company that have similar materials in them, similar makeups, but definitely can accomplish a number of different things across the running spectrum. So I thought it would be useful for those deciding whether or not they want one of these shoes or the other, or even both when it comes to building out a running shoe rotation. Talk about some of the things they can accomplish, some of their upsides, some of their downsides, and ultimately pick my favorite between these two shoes. Now, to start off with, I have put quite a few miles into both of these shoes, 203 miles into the Asics NOVABLAST 3 and 167 miles into the SUPERBLAST. And again, I've been running higher mileage than I ever have before as of late, so I'm running more often, and more often I am running further. And both of these shoes have been up to the task when it comes to doing that. But let's talk about each of them individually though before we get into that. When it comes to the NOVABLAST 3, this is the shoe between the two that I have had for longer. This is a shoe that definitely didn't wow me at first, but I would say it has certainly delivered when it comes to sort of reliable daily training miles. I know a lot of people talk about the Asics NOVABLAST as a potential quote-unquote speed day shoe, but preferably would never work out in this shoe. It does have some distinct characteristics of a workout shoe, talking about that sort of steeper drop when it comes to the 31 to 23 millimeter stack heights for an 8 millimeter drop with a pretty bouncy foam. But I think the features in regards to the foam, the stack height, when it comes to a workout shoe, sort of stop there in the NOVABLAST 3. I expected this to be more of an all-arounder, akin to the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, for instance, which is one of the shoes it has sort of been compared to and put up against and put beside in the running shoe marketplace when it comes to thinking about these tweener type of shoes that can accomplish all different types of tasks, from your easy recovery short runs all the way up to your long run workouts. This hasn't quite been that for me, but it has been one of the most reliable, consistent daily trainers that I have used in recent years. It's not quite as soft as I found it to be advertised. The FF Blast Plus is definitely a fun foam to run in, but not necessarily one, at least in the package that is the Asics NOVABLAST 3, that I have found to be worthy of running at really high speeds, running quick workouts with this shoe. This is a perfectly capable daily trainer though that I take out for paces anywhere from recovery pace all the way up to sort of like a moderate or steady pace. And I find it to be capable for longer runs. I haven't gone beyond the 16-mile mark in this shoe, but it felt great in doing so. It's lightweight enough that it doesn't really get bogged down too much at 8.9 ounces in a men's size 9. But when you consider those sort of really good tweener shoes like the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, for instance, you're getting a much more lightweight shoe that has built-in elements like a nylon plate, for instance, that make it much more capable at higher speeds for quicker runs. Whereas this feels not quite like a outright one-trick pony, but like a pretty predictable, reliable daily trainer in the context of today's running shoe marketplace with all the different options that we have at this point. It is lightweight, I would say, compared to many other daily trainers, and that does give it a bit more of a lively ride paired with a bouncier midsole. And I would have to say that Asics always delivers on the uppers. It is extremely premium, comfortable, plenty of cushion in the heel, plenty of rigidity there in the heel cup to keep you locked in. I wouldn't exactly call it the most stable of daily training shoes, but I do think most people could get on with the Asics NOVABLAST 3, and I would recommend it to somebody sort of looking for a general daily trainer experience in 2023. I think it is as good as it gets when it comes to accomplishing those sort of everyday mile tasks. So on the other hand, we have the Asics SUPERBLAST, which I've made multiple videos about, but if you have watched my past videos, especially recent ones where I've talked about the Asics SUPERBLAST, you probably already know what I'm going to say about it. This has been one of the most fun, versatile shoes I have run in recent history, and it is definitely one of those shoes that claims to be able to do a lot and delivers in doing so. It looks remarkably larger than the Asics NOVABLAST 3, but it comes in at a lighter weight. It is only 8.4 ounces and it has a similar 8mm drop, but in the heel it is instead 45.5mm down to 37.5mm in the forefoot. So a similar makeup. Instead of using FF Blast Plus, it has FF Turbo and then a dual layer on the bottom. And it definitely has a bit more rigidity. This is not a shoe with a plate in it, but it is rather stiff while having a soft, airy, bouncy midsole, being in a lightweight package, and being the absolute max cushion of max cushion shoes. So when it comes to this shoe, I've used this mostly for long runs, long run workouts, sort of longer, medium, long, steady runs, and even recovery runs. So this is a shoe that I have used all over the spectrum, though it does come at a price currently on sale for $200. So it is considerably more than the Asics NOVABLAST 3, which comes in at retailing for $140. So you're paying $60 to, if you're paying for retail, even more money, but it is mostly coming in at $200. But I think it is fair to say that it accomplishes a lot more tasks than the Asics NOVABLAST 3 will, but not to the point where I would say, if you're really pinching pennies, that it makes a massive difference between these two shoes. So all in all, which of these two shoes would I personally recommend and personally pick? I think it's easily the Asics SUPERBLAST. This shoe is so incredibly versatile. It is a shoe that I struggle not to reach for on nearly every single run that deals with anything from recovery paces all the way up to marathon pace and a little bit faster. This is a shoe that I would recommend to pretty much any type of runner. It has one of the widest platforms when it comes to that outsole and that landing area that I have ever seen, where it could potentially be a super shoe, a race day shoe for runners who really need stability and don't get on quite that well with the carbon plated racers that are usually inherently not stable at all. This delivers a super shoe, carbon plated type of experience to the point where I think you could run any distance race in this and be quite happy with how stable the ride is. I can't quite say the same for the Asics NOVABLAST 3, which even for a mostly neutral runner, I find to be one of the less stable of the daily trainers I've tried in recent history. I wouldn't say I'm pronating like crazy in this shoe, but I wouldn't say it is perfect for runners who need some small elements of stability. That's where the Asics SUPERBLAST certainly wins. The Asics SUPERBLAST wins in terms of saving weight, and so far in terms of durability, this shoe being at over 200 miles, this being at almost 170, sort of in similar spots, I haven't noticed a ton of degradation in either. So those are definitely check marks for both of these. But when it comes for any type of runner training for any type of distance, I just see, if you are willing to shell out a bit more money, being able to get a whole lot more out of an Asics SUPERBLAST. So in terms of makeup and proportions, ratios, these shoes are very similar, but they do accomplish different things and do them both at different levels. And I find the SUPERBLAST to be much more preferable across the board to the NOVABLAST 3, but that doesn't mean the NOVABLAST 3 is a bad trainer. I still think it is even preferable to a lot of other daily trainers. Asics just seems to be killing it right now with two shoes that are at the absolute top end of the running shoe marketplace. So let me know, have you run in the NOVABLAST 3 or the SUPERBLAST? Which one do you prefer? What are you using each of them for in your running? And let me know what you think of my preference for the SUPERBLAST over the NOVABLAST 3 after nearly 200 miles in both of these shoes. That's all I have to say about my comparison for the Asics NOVABLAST 3 and the SUPERBLAST. We will catch up next time. Peace.